10:17 in the morning, September 15th, 1940. Flight Lieutenant James Nicolson sits at 22,000 feet over Kent in a Hawker Hurricane that shouldn't be flying. His wingman is 800 feet to his right. 15 Messerschmitt Bf-109s are diving from 25,000 feet, closing at 400 miles per hour. Nicholson's hands rest on the control stick. The stick connects to fabric-covered ailerons. The Germans have 20mm cannons. The math is simple. Fabric tears, pilots die. Nicholson glances at his left wing. Something's different about the fabric. Crosshatch pattern he's never seen before. Ground crew told him a civilian engineer worked on his aircraft overnight. Applied some kind of tape. Nicholson didn't ask questions. The Battle of Britain is killing his squadron faster than paperwork can track replacement pilots. 7 men dead in 2 weeks, all from the same thing. Wings that stop working, no warning, no visible damage. Just sudden catastrophic control failure at 20,000 feet. The 109s are 1,000 yards out now. Nicholson counts them. 15 fighters. His section has 4 Hurricanes. The Germans have altitude. The Germans have speed. The Germans have cannons that don't need to hit you to kill you. They just need to get close. Nicholson keys his radio. Red section, defensive break on my mark. The lead 109 opens fire. 20mm cannon. Rate of fire, 520 rounds per minute. Effective range, 1,000 yards. The shells don't look like much. Small black dots arcing through the sky. Then one explodes 9 feet from Nicholson's left wing. The shockwave hits like a physical blow. The Hurricane bucks sideways. Violent turbulence. Metal screams. Nicholson's head slams against the canopy frame. His vision blurs, but his hands stay on the controls. Left stick. The aircraft should be shredding. The wing fabric should be tearing along its grain, cascading failures spreading across the entire control surface in under 1 second. The ailerons should be gone. The aircraft should be uncontrollable. But the stick responds. The Hurricane rolls left. Nicholson pulls through the turn. The 109 overshoots, surprised. And Nicholson realizes something impossible just happened. His wing took blast damage at 9 feet. He's still flying. The fabric is holding. He looks at the wing again. The fabric is torn. He can see it. Multiple tears, jagged edges. But the tears are small, isolated. The crosshatch pattern of tape is holding everything together. The cascading failure isn't happening. Nicholson reverses right, gets guns on the 109. 3-second burst from his 8 Browning 303 machine guns. Strikes walk up the German's engine cowling. The 109 trails black smoke, dives away. Nicholson doesn't watch it fall. He's looking at his wing, at the tape that just saved his life. The problem wasn't new. The Royal Air Force had known since 1938 that fabric-covered control surfaces couldn't survive blast overpressure from German cannons. They'd watched it kill pilots through the Spanish Civil War. Watched it again in France, May 1940. Now, August through September 1940, they were watching it kill pilots over England. The statistics were nightmare fuel. 63 Hurricanes lost in 3 weeks. Not from bullets, not from direct hits, from near misses. German 20mm cannon shells exploding 10, 15, 20 feet from the aircraft. The blast created shockwaves. The shockwaves hit fabric-covered wings and control surfaces. The fabric tore. The aircraft became unflyable. Pilots died. The technical term was blast damage from overpressure effects. The practical term was death sentence. Pilots reported the same phenomenon across every squadron. You'd hear the explosion, feel the shockwave. Then your controls would go mushy. Ailerons wouldn't respond. Or they'd respond wrong, creating opposite effect. You'd look at your wings and see nothing. No bullet holes. No visible damage. But the fabric was failing internally, tearing along its weave grain. Within seconds, the entire control surface would be shredded. The aircraft would enter an uncontrollable spin. Altitude at 20,000 feet gave you maybe 90 seconds before impact. Not enough time to recover. Barely enough time to think about bailing out. Most pilots didn't bail out. They fought the controls all the way down, trying to save an aircraft that was already dead. Ground crews would find the wreckage. Hurricane broken across some Kent farmer's field. Pilots still strapped in the cockpit, wings torn to pieces, fabric shredded like tissue paper. Cause of death: blast overpressure. Survival rate: 0%. The Hurricane was a fabric-covered fighter. Wings and control surfaces used Irish linen stretched over metal framework. The fabric was doped, treated with cellulose acetate to make it taut and weather-resistant. Strong enough for normal flight loads. Not strong enough for instantaneous overpressure from exploding cannon shells. The Supermarine Spitfire had metal-skinned wings, aluminum construction. Metal could handle blast overpressure better than fabric. Spitfires took the same near-miss cannon fire. They survived. Dented metal, maybe. Damaged, certainly. But controllable. Fabric Hurricanes just died. The Royal Air Force needed Hurricanes. Easier to produce than Spitfires. Easier to repair. Fabric could be replaced in field conditions. Battle damage could be patched by ground crews with basic tools. Metal required factory work. The Hurricane's simplicity kept it flying, kept it fighting, kept it dying from a problem everyone knew existed and nobody could solve. 63 Hurricanes in 3 weeks. 63 pilots. Most in their early 20s. Some teenagers, all killed by invisible bullets. Shells that never touched them but tore their wings. Apart anyway. Jeffrey Walton was 41 years old. Civilian aeronautical engineer. Hawker Aircraft Limited, Langley Facility, Surrey. He'd been designing fabric tensioning systems for racing aircraft before the war. Biplanes, mostly. Light construction, high performance. He understood fabric, understood how it behaved under stress, understood that fabric wasn't weak, it just behaved exactly as designed. And current designs weren't meant for cannon blast. Walton didn't come from Cambridge, didn't have the university background of most aircraft designers. He'd worked his way up from fabric workshop technician, 15 years cutting and stretching Irish linen over aircraft frames. He knew fabric the way pilots knew engines, intimately, practically, with his hands. August 1940, Hawker assigned him to analyze blast damage on recovered Hurricane wreckage. 17 aircraft over 2 weeks. All showed the same failure pattern. Fabric torn along the weave grain. Not random tearing. Specific, predictable propagation. The tears started at one point, then spread. Like a run in stockings. One break in the weave, then the whole thing unraveled. Walton spent hours examining the fabric, used magnifying glass, studied individual threads. The fabric wasn't failing because it was weak. It was failing because the blast created oscillating pressure waves that propagated through the weave structure. The fabric tried to move in 2 directions simultaneously. Expanding from overpressure, contracting from its natural tension. The competing forces created tears. The tears propagated. 1 second. That's all it took. 1 second from initial blast to complete control surface failure. He watched it happen in the hangar. Damaged aileron fabric from a Hurricane shot down over Dover. The fabric was already torn. But as Walton examined it, the tear spread. Slowly. No additional stress, just ambient vibration from people walking nearby. The damage was still propagating hours after combat. The failure pattern was mechanical, predictable, preventable. That's when Walton had an idea that violated every aerospace engineering principle he'd been taught. The Royal Air Force Engineering Branch had been testing solutions since 1938. Official solutions, proper solutions. Solutions developed through correct channels with appropriate oversight and documentation. Solution 1. Double-layer fabric. Apply 2 layers of Irish linen instead of 1. Increased strength, increased resistance to tearing. Testing showed promise, but double-layer fabric added 12 pounds per aircraft. Hurricane climb rate decreased 3%. Fighter command rejected it. 3% slower climb meant German fighters caught you 3% sooner. You didn't die from blast damage. You died from bullets instead. The numbers didn't improve, just the method. Solution 2. Metal reinforcement strips. Apply aluminum strips to fabric surfaces along stress lines. Testing showed excellent blast resistance. But metal strips added 18 pounds per aircraft. Worse, they affected center of gravity, required complete redesign of control surface balance. Implementation timeline, 6 months minimum. Fighter command rejected it. 6 months was June 1941. Pilots were dying September 1940. Solution 3. Synthetic fabric with tighter weave. Replace Irish linen with modern synthetic material. Stronger tensile strength, better resistance to propagation. Testing showed significant improvement. But synthetic fabric required new production facilities, new supply chains, new training for ground crews. Implementation timeline, 8 months. Cost, undetermined but substantial. Fighter command filed it for future consideration. Future consideration meant after the war, if there was an after. Solution 4. Accept the casualties as operationally unavoidable. Blast damage was a known risk. Like flak, like pilot error, like weather. You couldn't prevent every death. The hurricane's advantages outweighed its vulnerabilities. Keep flying them. Keep losing pilots. Keep fighting. The mathematics of attrition. Brutal, practical, unacceptable to everyone except the people making the decisions from behind desks. By September 1940, engineering consensus was clear. No solution existed that didn't compromise performance. Weight addition meant slower aircraft. Slower aircraft meant more pilots shot down by faster Bf-109s. Production changes meant delays. Delays meant fewer aircraft. Fewer aircraft meant losing the battle. The numbers were examined from every angle. Every angle pointed to the same conclusion. Accept the losses. Train replacement pilots. Keep fighting. 63 hurricanes in 3 weeks. The mathematics of attrition. Written in blood. September 12, 1940. Evening. Biggin Hill Airfield, Kent. Jeffrey Walton drove from Langley with rolls of industrial adhesive tape in his car boot. The tape was manufactured for sealing wooden shipping crates. Heavy-duty cloth-backed adhesive. Width, 2 inches. Strength, sufficient to hold 40 pounds without tearing. Cost, 2 shillings per roll. 1 roll provided enough tape for 4 aircraft. Walton parked near the maintenance hangar. Found Flight Lieutenant Nicholson's Hurricane, tail number P3059. The ground crew had gone for evening meal. Walton worked alone. 90 minutes. That's how long it took. He cut the tape into 4-inch strips, applied them to the wing fabric in a crosshatch pattern. 1 strip vertical, next strip horizontal, perpendicular to each other. Spacing, 6 inches between strips. Coverage, complete. Every square foot of fabric-covered surface. wings, ailerons, elevators, rudder. The theory was simple. Fabric failed through propagation. Tears spread along the weave grain because nothing interrupted the stress wave. The tape created artificial boundaries. When a tear reached the tape, the adhesives provided a different stress path. The tear would stop at the tape edge, couldn't propagate further. The fabric between tape strips might fail. But the failure stayed localized, contained. The control surface remained functional even with multiple tears. Simple theory. Completely untested. Based on examination of static wreckage, not dynamic combat conditions. No wind tunnel testing, no engineering approval, no safety certification. Just one civilian engineer's analysis of fabric behavior and 90 minutes with packing tape. Total material cost, 8 shillings per aircraft. Total weight addition, 2 pounds 3 ounces. Total engineering approval, 0. If it worked, Walton would save lives. If it failed, he'd face court-martial for unauthorized modification of military aircraft. If it failed catastrophically during flight, Nicolson would die and Walton would spend the war in prison. Walton finished at 2,300 hours, replaced the inspection panels, cleaned up the tools, left no documentation, no maintenance log entry, no notification to engineering staff. He climbed in his car and drove back to Langley. Didn't sleep that night. Just sat at his kitchen table, thinking about fabric stress propagation and the pilot who would test his theory in 3 days. September 15th, 1940. 10:17 in the morning. 22,000 feet over Kent. German cannon shell explodes 9 feet from Nicholson's wing. The blast hits. The fabric tears. The tears stop at the tape. The wing holds. Nicholson flies home. And Jeffrey Walton's ridiculous idea with packing tape becomes the modification that changes how every hurricane in the Royal Air Force flies into combat. September 13th, 1940. 0600 hours. RAF Biggin Hill. Flight Lieutenant James Nicolson walks around his Hurricane during pre-flight inspection. Morning air cold. Grass wet with dew. His hands are numb. He's checking control surfaces, fuel lines, ammunition belts. Standard inspection. 30 items on the checklist. He's on item 7 when he notices something wrong with his wings. Crosshatch pattern, covering the entire fabric surface. Strips of what looks like industrial tape, 2 inches wide, applied in perpendicular lines every 6 inches. Covers the wings, ailerons, elevators, rudder. Every fabric-covered surface. The tape is tan-colored. Doesn't match the Hurricane's camouflage. Makes the aircraft look like it's been patched with packing material. Nicolson stops, stares at the wing. This isn't standard, isn't regulation. He's flown Hurricanes for 8 months, never seen anything like this. Flight Sergeant Davies approaches. Chief mechanic for Nicholson's aircraft, 43 years old, veteran of the First War, knows aircraft maintenance better than most engineers. Sergeant, what is this? Nicholson points at the tape. Davies examines the wing, frowns. Don't know, sir. Wasn't there yesterday evening. Someone modified my aircraft. Overnight? Appears so, sir. Who? Davies shakes his head. Ground crew didn't do it. We'd have logged it. Must have been someone else. Someone else like who? Civilian engineer was here last night. Saw him working near the hangar around 2,200 hours. Didn't think much of it. Engineers come through all the time. Nicolson runs his hand over the tape. Feels like heavy cloth backing with strong adhesive. Applied carefully. Professional work. Not a rush job. Someone took time, 90 minutes at least. This is unauthorized modification, Nicolson says. Should report it immediately. Davies nods. Yes, sir. Regulations require reporting any unauthorized changes to military aircraft. They both stand there, looking at the tape, thinking about regulations, thinking about the 7 pilots they've lost in 2 weeks, all from wings that stopped working, all from invisible damage. Nicolson makes a decision. I'll fly 1 patrol, test if it affects performance. If the aircraft handles wrong, I'll report it immediately. Davies considers this. Technically against regulations. Technically, Nicolson should ground the aircraft until engineering staff evaluates the modification. But technically, 63 hurricanes have been lost in 3 weeks, and officially approved solutions aren't saving anyone. Understood, sir, Davies says. I'll note in the log that pre-flight inspection showed no mechanical defects. Which is true. The tape isn't a mechanical defect. It's just unauthorized. There's a difference. Nicolson signs off on the inspection, climbs into the cockpit, doesn't mention the tape to anyone else. September 15th, 1940, 0830 hours, Biggin Hill Operations Room, morning briefing. 12 pilots from 609 Squadron. Squadron leader Michael Robinson stands at the front. Map of southeast England behind him. Red markers showing expected German approach vectors. Intelligence reports Luftwaffe launching maximum effort today, Robinson says. Expect 200-plus bombers, 150-plus fighters. They're throwing everything at London. The pilots sit quietly. They've heard this before. Maximum effort. Everything the Germans have. Yesterday's maximum effort killed 3 pilots. Day before that, 2 more. Our mission, Robinson continues, intercept bomber formation over Kent. Vector 270. Altitude 20,000 feet. Expected enemy fighters, BF 109s. They'll have altitude advantage. Pilot Officer Michael Crossley raises his hand. 22 years old, 4 kills, been flying hurricanes for 6 weeks. Sir, what about the blast damage problem? Jerry's been using cannon more often. Close misses are killing us. Robinson's face tightens. Engineering branch is working on solutions. Until then, avoid close engagement with cannon-armed fighters when possible. And when it's not possible? Silence. Because everyone knows the answer. When it's not possible, you die. Your wings fail. Your aircraft spins. You have 90 seconds to think about it before you hit the ground. Flight Lieutenant Nicolson sits in the back row. Says nothing. Thinks about the tape on his wings. Wonders if the civilian engineer knew something engineering branch didn't. Wonders if he's about to test an unauthorized modification in combat. Wonders if he'll survive to report the results. Briefing ends at 0903 hours. Pilots walk to their aircraft. Nicolson sees someone standing near the flight line. Civilian clothes, dark coat. Doesn't fit with RAF personnel. The man is watching the hurricanes. Watching Nicholson's hurricane specifically. Nicolson makes eye contact. The civilian nods once, says nothing, doesn't approach, just stands there, watching. Nicolson understands. The engineer is here to see if his modification works, or if it kills someone, here to witness the test he couldn't conduct officially. Nicolson climbs into his cockpit, straps in, starts the engine, rolls Merlin 12-cylinder engine, 1,030 horsepower. The hurricane shakes. Metal and fabric and rivets and tape. 2 pounds 3 ounces of industrial adhesive tape that might save his life or might do nothing at all. He takes off at 0927 hours, 1017 hours, 22,000 feet. Nicholson's section is at patrol altitude when radar reports contact. Bandits inbound from southeast. Distance 12 miles. Nicolson strains his eyes, sees them. 18 Dornier bombers in formation, 15 BF 109 fighters above and behind. The 109s are at 25,000 feet, 3,000 feet higher. The altitude advantage. Squadron leader Robinson's voice crackles over radio. Red and blue sections, engage bombers. Yellow section, take the fighters. Nicolson leads yellow section, 4 Hurricanes. His wingman is Pilot Officer Thomas Martin, 20 years old, 3 weeks in squadron, 0 kills, 2 more Hurricanes behind them. They turn toward the 109s. The Germans see them coming. The 109s are faster, BF 109E model. Maximum speed 354 miles per hour, Hurricane maximum speed 322 miles per hour. The Germans are 30 miles per hour faster. Plus they have 3,000 feet altitude. They can dive, build speed, attack from above. The Hurricane's only advantage is maneuverability, can turn tighter than 109. But that doesn't help when German cannons can kill you from 15 feet away. The 109s dive. Nicolson counts them. 15 fighters, 4 Hurricanes. The math is bad. He keys the radio. Yellow section, defensive break on my mark. Pairs, stay together. The lead 109 closes to 1,000 yards. 800. 600. Nicolson can see the gun ports in the wings. Twin 7.92 millimeter machine guns. One 20 millimeter cannon firing through the propeller hub. The cannon is the problem. The cannon creates the blast that kills. 400 yards. Nicolson calls, "Break! Break now!" Yellow section scatters. Nicolson pulls hard left. Martin stays with him. The other pair breaks right. The 109 split up. 3 follow Nicolson. 4 follow Martin. The others chase the second pair. Nicolson's Hurricane pulls through the turn. G-force pushes him into the seat. Vision grays at the edges. He eases the turn. Vision clears. Checks mirrors. 3 109s behind him. Lead aircraft 800 yards. Closing. The Hurricane can't outrun them. Can't outclimb them. Can only turn. Nicolson reverses. Pulls right. The 109s follow. They're patient. Experienced. Don't commit too early. Wait for the right moment. Wait for the kill shot. Lead 109 closes to 600 yards. Opens fire. Machine guns first. Tracers arc past Nicolson's canopy, high and right. The German is walking the fire in. Next burst will be closer. 500 yards. Second burst. Closer. Rounds snap past Nicolson's wing. Still missing. But the pattern is tightening. 400 yards. The 109 fires its cannon. 20 millimeter, high explosive rounds. Nicolson sees the muzzle flash, sees the shells arc toward him. They look slow, deceptive, moving 400 meters per second. The shells pass his aircraft, high by 10 feet. Nicolson thinks he's safe. Then the first shell explodes, 9 feet from his left wing. The blast is instantaneous, shockwave traveling 3,000 feet per second. Hits the Hurricane before Nicolson's brain processes what happened. The aircraft bucks violently sideways, like hitting a wall. Metal screams, rivets strain. Nicolson's head slams against the canopy frame. His helmet cracks against plexiglass. Vision blurs, ears ring. His hands stay on the controls. Instinct, training. The stick is in his left hand. Should feel mushy. Should feel wrong. The wing fabric should be failing, tearing, propagating. The ailerons should be dead. But the stick responds. Left stick. The Hurricane rolls left, not sluggish, not delayed. Immediate response. The control surface is working. Nicolson pulls through the turn. The 109 overshoots. The German pilot wasn't expecting Nicolson to maintain control, wasn't expecting the Hurricane to keep flying. Blast at 9 feet should have shredded the wing, should have killed the aircraft. But Nicolson is still flying. He reverses right, gets the 109 in his gun sight. 3-ring reflector sight, lead computing. The German fills the rings. Nicolson presses the trigger. 8 Browning 303 machine guns, 700 rounds per minute each. Combined rate, 5,600 rounds per minute. 3-second burst, 480 rounds. Strikes walk up the 109's fuselage. Engine cowling. Cockpit. The German aircraft trails black smoke. Rolls inverted. Dives. Nicolson doesn't watch it fall. No time. 2 more 109's are still there. He looks at his left wing. The fabric is damaged. He can see it clearly. Multiple tears, jagged edges, fabric shredded in places, but the tears are small, isolated, between the tape strips. The crosshatch pattern is holding everything together. The damage isn't propagating. The cascading failure that should have killed him isn't happening. The tape is working. The dogfight continues. 7 minutes of combat. Nicolson engages 2 more 109's. Both fire cannons. Both create blast damage. Near misses at 12 feet, at 15 feet. Each blast creates more tears in the fabric. Each tear stops at the tape. The wing looks progressively worse. Shredded, like someone attacked it with a knife. But the ailerons keep responding. Control authority decreases slightly. Maybe 80% effectiveness. But 80% is enough to fly. Enough to fight. Enough to survive. Nicolson shoots down a second 109. 4-second burst. Confirmed kill. The aircraft explodes. Debris tumbles through the sky. 10-24 hours. Nicholson's ammunition is exhausted. Browning gun's empty. Fuel gauge shows 1/4 tank. His wing looks like shredded cloth barely holding together. Time to go home. He keys the radio. Yellow leader to Yellow 2. I'm Winchester and Bingo Fuel. Heading home. Martin's voice responds. Yellow 2 copies. Your wing looks bad. Can you make it? Nicolson tests the controls. Left stick, right stick. Both respond. Controls still functional. I'm coming home. He turns toward Biggin Hill. Descends through 20,000 feet. 18,000. 15,000. The damaged wing affects aerodynamics. Creates drag. The Hurricane flies slightly nose left. Nicolson compensates with rudder trim. The aircraft stays controllable. 12,000 feet. 10,000. He can see Biggin Hill ahead. Grass runway, control tower. Parked aircraft, home, landing approach. Nicolson runs through the checklist. Landing gear down. 3 green lights, flaps down. Mixture rich. The damaged wing makes the approach tricky. He adds 15 miles per hour to approach speed. Compensates for reduced lift. Crosses the threshold. Flares. The Hurricane settles. Main gear touches. Tail wheel touches. Roll out. The aircraft tracks straight. Nicolson applies brakes. Brings the Hurricane to a stop. He sits in the cockpit for 10 seconds. Hands shaking now. Adrenaline wearing off. He took blast damage that should have killed him. His wing should have failed. Should have torn apart. Should have sent him spinning into the ground. But he's alive. On the ground. Safe. Because of tape. 8 shillings worth of industrial adhesive tape. Nicolson shuts down the engine. Silence except for metal ticking as it cools. He unstraps. Climbs out of the cockpit. His legs are weak. He steadies himself against the fuselage. Ground crew surrounds the Hurricane, looking at the wing, at the damage. Flight Sergeant Davies approaches, examines the fabric, counts the tears, 17 separate tears, multiple blast impacts. Traditional Hurricane would have catastrophic failure from the first hit. Davies looks at Nicolson. You took blast damage. 3 near misses, 9 feet, 12 feet, 15 feet. Your wing should be gone. I know, but it's not. The tape held it together. Each tear stopped at a tape strip. Damage stayed localized. Controls remained functional entire fight. Other pilots gather. Martin lands, climbs out of his aircraft. His Hurricane has bullet holes, but no blast damage. The other yellow section aircraft land. Both damaged. both functional. Squadron Leader Robinson appears, examines Nicholson's wing, studies the tape pattern, the tears, the way the damage stopped at artificial boundaries. "What is this modification?" Robinson asks. "Civilian engineer applied it 2 nights ago," Nicholson says. "Industrial tape, crosshatch pattern, creates stress interruption points." "Unauthorized?" "Yes, sir." Robinson runs his hand over the damaged fabric, feels the tape, feels where tears stopped propagating. "Did it work?" "I took 3 blast impacts that should have killed me. I'm standing here. The wing held. Controls stayed responsive." Robinson turns to Davies. "This aircraft took how much damage?" 17 separate tears from multiple blast exposures, sir. Traditional fabric would have complete failure from first impact. But this didn't fail. No, sir. The tape prevented cascading failure. Robinson looks at the other pilots, at the ground crew, at Nicholson standing beside his shredded but functional wing, makes a decision without consulting engineering branch, without waiting for official approval, without following proper channels. "Where's this civilian engineer?" Nicholson points. Jeffrey Walton stands near the flight line. Same dark coat, same position he held 4 hours earlier, watching, waiting. Robinson walks to him. "You applied this tape modification?" "Yes," Walton says. "Unauthorized. I understand that. It worked. Prevented catastrophic failure, saved this pilot's life. The principle is sound. Interrupt propagation. Prevent cascading failure. Can you apply it to every hurricane on this field?" Walton looks at Robinson, at Nicholson, at the wing that should have failed, but didn't. "Yes, I brought enough tape for 23 aircraft. Need 90 minutes per aircraft. Can work through the night." Robinson nods. "Do it. Ground crew will assist. I'll handle engineering branch." "Sir, this is unauthorized modification. Flight Lieutenant Nicholson just survived 3 blast impacts. His wing looks like shredded cloth. He flew home and landed safely. I don't care about authorization. I care about pilots surviving. Apply the tape." That night, Jeffrey Walton and ground crews work under floodlights. 23 hurricanes, industrial tape, crosshatch pattern, 90 minutes per aircraft. Total time, 34 hours of labor compressed into 1 night. Multiple crews working simultaneously. Total cost, £10, 6 shillings. Total engineering approval, still 0. But by morning, every hurricane at Biggin Hill has tape reinforcement. Every pilot has a chance to survive blast damage. Every aircraft can take hits that would have killed them yesterday. Word spreads through the squadron. By afternoon, pilots from other squadrons are asking questions. "What's the tape? How does it work? Can we get it?" Engineering branch hasn't approved it. But pilots are alive. That's approval enough. September 16th, 1940, 0800 hours, RAF Uxbridge, Air Vice Marshal Trafford Lee Mallory's office. The telephone rings. Lee Mallory answers, listens. His expression darkens. "Say that again, squadron leader." Robinson's voice crackles through the line. 23 hurricanes at Biggin Hill received unauthorized modifications night of September 15th. Civilian engineer applied industrial adhesive tape to fabric control surfaces. Crosshatch pattern, no engineering approval, no safety testing. You're reporting a breach of protocol. I'm reporting a modification that prevented catastrophic wing failure yesterday. Flight Lieutenant Nicolson took 3 blast impacts at close range. Wing remained functional. He landed safely. Silence on the line. Then, 1 aircraft? 1 aircraft in combat. But the principle is sound. We've applied the modification to our entire squadron overnight. Without authorization. Yes, sir. Squadron leader. Do you understand what you've done? Unauthorized modification of military aircraft during wartime. This is court-martial territory. Understood, sir. But 63 Hurricanes have been lost to blast damage in 3 weeks. This modification works. The engineering is simple, the cost is negligible, and pilots are surviving. Lee Mallory leans back in his chair. 63 aircraft. The number haunts every briefing, every casualty report. Engineering branch has been working on solutions for 2 years. Every solution requires time, requires resources, requires compromise. Meanwhile, pilots keep dying. I'm ordering an immediate investigation, Lee Mallory says. The engineer who applied this modification will face disciplinary action. Your squadron will ground all modified aircraft pending engineering review. Sir, we have operations scheduled for today. Jerry's not stopping because we need to review paperwork. Ground the aircraft. Robinson pauses. Then, respectfully, sir, no. The line goes silent. Lee Mallory's hand tightens on the receiver. Repeat that, squadron leader. I will not ground aircraft that have proven survivability improvements. My pilots are flying against cannon-armed fighters. This modification gives them a chance. I will not remove that chance for protocol compliance. You're refusing a direct order. I'm prioritizing pilot survival over administrative procedure. Court-martial me if necessary, but my pilots fly with a tape modification. Lee Mallory should end Robinson's career right now. Insubordination, refusal to follow orders. But he's looking at casualty reports. 63 Hurricanes, 63 pilots, and 1 squadron commander willing to risk court-martial to save his men. The engineer's name, Lee Mallory says. Jeffrey Walton, civilian contractor, Hawker Aircraft Langley Facility. He's to report to RAF Uxbridge immediately. Disciplinary hearing. September 18th, 1400 hours. You'll attend as well. Yes, sir. Lee Mallory hangs up, sits at his desk, stares at the casualty reports, thinks about fabric that tears and pilots who die, and 1 civilian engineer with packing tape who might have solved a problem engineering branch couldn't crack in 2 years. He picks up the phone again, calls RAF engineering branch. We have a situation. September 16th, 1940, afternoon. Biggin Hill. 4 more Hurricanes fly combat operations. All carry the tape modification. 2 take blast damage during engagement with BF-109s. Both survive. Controls remain functional. Both pilots land safely. September 17th, 1940, morning. 6 Hurricanes fly escort mission. 3 take blast damage. 3 survive. 0 catastrophic failures. Word spreads beyond Biggin Hill. Pilots talk. Ground crews talk. By evening September 17th, squadrons at Tangmere and Northolt are asking questions. What's this tape modification? How do we get it? Engineering branch sends inspector to Biggin Hill. Wing Commander Robert Elliott, 47 years old, 23 years RAF service, engineering degree from Cambridge. He examines the modified Hurricanes, examines the tape, examines combat damage reports. He finds Flight Sergeant Davies. This modification. Who authorized it? Nobody authorized it, sir. Civilian engineer applied it without approval. You allowed unauthorized modification of military aircraft? We allowed a modification that's keeping pilots alive, sir. Elliott's face reddens. That's not your decision to make. Aircraft modifications require engineering analysis, safety testing, official approval. You can't just apply packing tape and hope for the best. Davies stands at attention, says nothing. Elliott continues. I'm filing formal complaint. This engineer violated every protocol, every regulation. He's lucky nobody died testing his theory. Nobody died, sir. That's the point. 6 aircraft took blast damage in 2 days. 6 pilots survived. Traditional hurricane? We'd have lost 4, maybe 5 pilots. The tape works. You don't know it works. You have 2 days of field data. That's not sufficient for engineering conclusion. With respect, sir, dead pilots are sufficient conclusion. We had 63 in 3 weeks. Now we have 0 from blast damage. The data's pretty clear. Elliot writes in his notebook. Your name and rank? Flight Sergeant William Davies, sir. You'll be called to testify at the disciplinary hearing. Yes, sir. Elliot drives back to Uxbridge. Files his report. Recommends immediate disciplinary action against Jeffrey Walton. Recommends removal of all unauthorized modifications pending proper engineering review. Recommends court-martial for Squadron Leader Robinson for insubordination. But he also includes the combat data. 6 aircraft, 6 blast damage incidents, 0 catastrophic failures. The numbers are undeniable. Something about the tape modification is working. Engineering branch faces a problem. The modification violates protocol. But it's saving lives. Punishing the engineer means admitting protocol is more important than pilot survival. Not a good message during the Battle of Britain. September 18th, 1940. 1400 hours. RAF Uxbridge. Disciplinary hearing. 5 officers sit behind a long table. Wing Commander Elliot presides. 2 engineering officers, 1 operations officer, 1 administrative officer, all senior, all career RAF. Jeffrey Walton stands before them. Civilian clothes, dark suit, only one he owns. Uncomfortable in formal settings, uncomfortable with attention. He's an engineer, works with fabric and calculations, not politics. The charges are read. Unauthorized modification of military aircraft, breach of safety protocol, endangerment of aircrew through untested modifications, potential penalties, termination of civilian contract, possible prosecution under defense regulations. Elliot speaks. Mr. Walton, do you understand the charges? Yes. Do you dispute that you applied modifications to military aircraft without authorization? No. I applied tape to fabric control surfaces without official approval. Do you understand that unauthorized modifications can endanger pilots? I understand that 63 pilots died in 3 weeks from blast damage. I understood that official solutions weren't arriving fast enough. I understood fabric failure patterns. I had a solution. I implemented it. You had no authority. I had dead pilots. I had wreckage showing preventable mechanical failure. I had industrial tape in 90 minutes. The mathematics were clear. Elliot leans forward. The mathematics were clear? You're not a military engineer. You have no degree from recognized university. You worked as fabric technician before the war. What makes you qualified to override engineering branch analysis? Walton meets his eyes. 20 years working with aircraft fabric. I understand how fabric behaves under stress. I've studied more fabric failures than most engineers see in their careers. I examined 17 hurricane wrecks. Every one showed the same failure pattern, cascading tears along weave grain. The solution was interrupt the propagation. Create artificial boundaries. The tape provides those boundaries. Engineering officer interrupts. Your solution hadn't been tested. You applied it to operational aircraft without safety trials. That's reckless. It was tested. I tested it on 17 wrecks. Studied the failure mechanics. Calculated the stress propagation. The physics were sound. Physics on static wreckage doesn't equal safety in dynamic combat conditions. Flight Lieutenant Nicholson's aircraft took 3 blast impacts at combat speeds. Wing fabric tore in 17 places. None propagated to catastrophic failure. The tape performed exactly as calculated. That's not luck. That's engineering. Silence. The officers look at each other. Look at combat reports. 6 aircraft, 6 blast damage incidents, 0 failures. Operations officer speaks. 28 years old. Pilot officer before transferring to operations staff. Flew hurricanes in France. Mr. Walton, I flew hurricanes before my transfer. Lost 3 wingmen to blast damage, all from near-miss cannon fire. Wings just stopped working. We were told it was unavoidable. Engineering branch said adding weight would make us slower. We'd die from bullets instead of blast. Is that correct? Official solutions added 12 to 18 pounds per aircraft. Reduced performance, that's correct. Your solution adds how much weight? 2 pounds, 3 ounces? 2 pounds. Yes. And prevents catastrophic fabric failure. Prevents propagating tears. Fabric still damages, but damage stays localized between tape strips. Control surfaces remain functional even with multiple tears. The operations officer looks at Elliot. We've been losing pilots for 2 years. Engineering branch tested solutions that added too much weight or required too much time. This civilian found a solution that weighs 2 pounds and costs 8 shillings. And we're prosecuting him? Elliot's jaw tightens. Protocol exists for reasons, Group Captain. We can't have civilians applying random modifications to military aircraft. It's not random. He studied the failure mechanism, designed an interruption system, tested it successfully. That's engineering, just faster than our process. Our process includes safety margins, testing protocols, oversight. Our process produced 0 solutions in 2 years. His process produced a working solution in 2 weeks. The room falls silent. Everyone understands the tension. Protocol versus results. Following rules versus saving lives. The question isn't whether Walton broke regulations. He clearly did. The question is whether breaking regulations to save 63 pilots justifies punishment. Administrative officer speaks. Older man, 56 years old. Veteran of the First War. Mr. Walton, if we had asked you to submit your modification through proper channels, how long would approval take? Walton considers. Engineering analysis, 2 weeks. Safety testing, 3 weeks. Production implementation, 4 weeks. Total, 9 weeks minimum. 9 weeks, during which pilots continue dying from blast damage. Yes. So you chose to bypass the process to save lives immediately. I chose to prevent deaths I could see coming. The failure pattern was clear. The solution was simple. Waiting 9 weeks meant 9 more weeks of casualties. The administrative officer makes notes, looks at Elliot. Wing Commander, what's the current blast damage casualty rate at Biggin Hill? Elliot checks his notes. 0 catastrophic failures since modification applied. 6 blast damage incidents. All aircraft returned safely. And at other airfields without the modification? Elliot hesitates, then reads from the casualty reports. September 16th through 18th. 8 blast damage incidents across 4 squadrons. 3 catastrophic failures. 2 pilots killed. 1 severely injured. The numbers fill the room. Modified hurricanes, 0 deaths. Standard hurricanes, 2 deaths. Same time period, same enemy, same combat conditions. Only difference? 8 shillings of tape. The hearing recesses, 40 minutes. Officers deliberate in private. Walton sits outside. Squadron leader Robinson sits beside him. Says nothing. Just sits. Moral support. Flight Lieutenant Nicolson arrives. Still in flight suit. Just landed from combat sortie. Heard you're getting court-martialed for saving my life. Thought I'd testify. Walton shakes his head. Not necessary. You put tape on my aircraft. Jerry hit me with 3 cannon near misses. I'm alive because of you. That's pretty necessary testimony. The door opens. Officers return. Everyone stands. Elliot speaks. Mr. Jeffrey Walton, this board finds you violated RAF engineering protocols through unauthorized modification of military aircraft. You bypassed safety procedures. You implemented untested modifications without approval. These actions warrant disciplinary measures. Walton stands straight, expects termination, possibly prosecution. Elliot continues. However, this board also recognizes that your modification has demonstrably improved aircraft survivability. Combat data shows 0 catastrophic failures among modified aircraft versus 37% failure rate among standard aircraft. The engineering principle appears sound. The implementation appears effective. Pause. Walton waits. Therefore, official verdict, formal reprimand. Your personnel file will reflect unauthorized modification of military equipment, but this board recommends emergency authorization for field testing of your tape modification across additional squadrons. 50 aircraft, 3 squadrons, 3-week evaluation period. If field testing confirms effectiveness, we'll recommend fleet-wide implementation. Walton blinks. You're authorizing the modification? We're authorizing controlled testing. With proper documentation this time, engineering branch will oversee implementation. You'll provide technical consultation, but no more unauthorized midnight modifications. Clear? Clear. Dismissed. Walton walks out. Robinson follows. Outside in the hallway, Robinson grins. You got a reprimand and authorization. That's the most British compromise I've ever seen. They're allowing testing. They're allowing your modification to save more pilots. Take the win. September 20th, 1940. RAF Engineering Branch issues Service Order 247. Emergency Trial Modification 47B. 50 Hurricanes across 3 squadrons will receive fabric tape reinforcement. Biggin Hill, Tangmere, Northolt. Ground crews receive instruction sheets. Apply industrial adhesive tape to all fabric-covered control surfaces. Crosshatch pattern, 6-inch intervals. Coverage, complete. Application time, 90 minutes per aircraft. Material cost, 8 shillings per aircraft. The instructions are detailed. Specific. Based on Walton's methodology, but now with official documentation. Engineering approval. Proper oversight. The modification Walton applied illegally to 23 aircraft is now being applied legally to 50 more. September 21st through October 8th. 3 weeks of intensive combat operations. 50 modified Hurricanes. 340 combat sorties. The aircraft fly against BF-109s, against cannon fire, against blast damage. 27 aircraft take near-miss blast damage. 27 pilots feel the shockwave hit. 27 wings tear. 27 sets of fabric rip along stress lines. 0 catastrophic failures. 27 pilots fly home. 27 aircraft land safely, some with extensive damage. Fabric shredded between tape strips. But ailerons functional. Elevators functional. Control authority maintained. Engineering branch documents everything. Photographs damaged wings. Measures tear propagation. Calculates stress distribution. The data confirms Walton's theory. Tape creates artificial boundaries. Stops propagating failures. Maintains control surface integrity even under multiple blast exposures. Comparison data from other squadrons. 50 standard Hurricanes. Same 3-week period. 19 take blast damage. 7 suffer catastrophic control failure. 4 pilots killed. 3 severely injured. Modified Hurricanes. 0% catastrophic failure rate. Standard hurricanes, 37% catastrophic failure rate. The statistics are overwhelming, undeniable. The tape modification works. October 8, 1940. Engineering Branch Files, Final Report. Recommendation: approve Emergency Trial Modification 47B for fleet-wide implementation. All operational hurricanes to receive fabric tape reinforcement. Priority: frontline squadrons first. Implementation timeline: 12 weeks. October 10, 1940. Air Ministry issues Service Bulletin 442. Official authorization. The modification Walton applied illegally with packing tape is now official RAF procedure. But there's a problem. The RAF operates 620 hurricanes. Applying tape manually takes 90 minutes per aircraft. Total labor, 930 man-hours. Ground crews are already overwhelmed. Maintenance, repairs, rearmament, refueling. Can't spare 90 minutes per aircraft. Walton proposes solution. Pre-tape the fabric before installation. Factory modification instead of field modification. Apply tape to fabric panels during manufacturing. Install pre-taped panels on aircraft. Net time savings, 42 minutes per aircraft. Hawker Aircraft, Langley facility begins production trial. Workers apply tape to fabric panels before shipping to assembly facilities. First batch, 50 aircraft worth. Completed October 18th. Quality control discovers unexpected benefit. Pre-taped fabric shows improved dimensional stability. The tape prevents fabric distortion during transport and storage. Less stretching, less sagging. Hurricane fabric maintenance becomes easier, faster, more reliable. The modification doesn't just prevent blast damage. It improves the entire fabric workflow. Maintenance crews report faster fabric replacement, better installation consistency, fewer alignment issues. Engineering branch takes notice. The simple modification produces compound benefits. Combat survivability plus maintenance efficiency. 2 improvements for 8 shillings. November 1st, 1940. Air Ministry issues final authorization. All hurricanes in RAF service to receive fabric tape modification. Factory production. All new hurricanes built with pre-taped fabric. Field retrofit. Existing aircraft modified during routine maintenance cycles. Implementation schedule. 12 weeks for complete fleet coverage. December 1st, 340 hurricanes modified. January 1st, 1941, 580 hurricanes modified. Blast damage casualty rate drops from 38% to 4%. 4% represents pilots who took multiple severe hits. Damage overwhelming even reinforced fabric. But 96% survive blast damage that would have killed them 3 months earlier. Total program cost through January, £248. Engineering branch estimates 73 pilots saved through December. 73 men who flew home, landed safely, survived because 8 shillings of tape stopped fabric from tearing. Jeffrey Walton's personnel file shows formal reprimand for unauthorized modification, but also shows commendation from Air Ministry. Recognition for innovation under pressure. His ridiculous idea with packing tape is now standard procedure across the entire RAF hurricane fleet. Nobody mentions that he broke every rule to make it happen. January through March, 1941. Winter fighting. The Luftwaffe shifts tactics. More night bombing, fewer daylight fighter sweeps. But cannon-armed Bf-109s still hunt British fighters, and modified hurricanes keep proving their worth. January. 15 blast damage incidents. 13 pilots returned safely. February. 11 incidents. 10 pilots home. March. 7 incidents. 7 survivors. The pattern holds. Near perfect survival rate. Pilots develop new confidence. They press attacks closer. Knowing blast damage won't kill them changes tactics. Changes aggression. Hurricane kill rates increased 12% over pre-modification baseline. Flight Lieutenant Nicolson shoots down 3 more German aircraft by March. Credits the tape. I can close to 200 yards now. Know the near miss won't tear my wings off. Changes everything. German pilots notice. British fighters surviving damage they shouldn't survive. Luftwaffe intelligence reports mention increased hurricane durability. Germans assume structural reinforcement. Metal additions. Don't know about 8 shillings of tape. Jeffrey Walton continues working at Hawker Langley, still designing fabric systems. Air Ministry requests consultation. Can the tape work on other aircraft? Trainers, transports, bombers. Walton studies different aircraft types, discovers the principle applies universally. Any fabric-covered control surface benefits from propagation interruption. February 1941, tape modification approved for RAF training aircraft. Tiger Moths, Ansons, Oxfords. Reduces training casualties from hard landings. Student pilots survive accidents that previously killed them. Training casualty rate drops 8%. March. Coastal Command requests evaluation for Swordfish torpedo bombers. Fabric-covered biplanes vulnerable to anti-aircraft blast. Walton applies tape to trial aircraft. Combat testing over North Sea proves effectiveness. Modification approved for entire Coastal Command fleet. By mid-1941, Walton's tape modification is standard on 23 British aircraft types. Simple solution solving complex problems across the entire RAF. June 1941, King George VI presents Walton with Member of the Order of the British Empire. Citation reads, "For innovation improving aircraft survivability and saving aircrew lives." Ceremony at Buckingham Palace. Walton wears his only suit, uncomfortable with recognition. Tells reporters afterward, "I just applied tape. Pilots did the hard part." May 1945. War ends. RAF conducts comprehensive analysis of wartime innovations. Walton's tape modification ranks among top 10 simplest, most effective changes. Final statistics. 2,840 hurricanes modified. 476 blast damage incidents. 19 catastrophic failures. 4% failure rate versus 38% pre-modification. Estimated lives saved, 162 pilots. Total program cost, £1,136. Cost per life saved, £7 per pilot. Most cost-effective safety modification in RAF history. The principle spreads beyond military aviation. Post-war commercial aircraft adopt similar fabric reinforcement. Engineering textbooks cite Walton's work. Stress propagation interruption becomes standard aerospace design principle. Walton returns to civilian work, 1946. Designs fabric systems for light aircraft. Never seeks publicity. Interviewed 1967 for RAF Historical Project. Asked about the modification. I saw fabric tearing in patterns. Interrupted the pattern. Not complicated. You saved 162 lives. No. Those pilots saved themselves. I just gave them wings that worked. Walton dies 1973. Age 74. Obituary mentions MBE, wartime service, fabric engineering expertise. Doesn't emphasize he revolutionized combat aircraft survivability with packing tape. Flight Lieutenant James Nicolson survives the war. 7 confirmed kills. Promoted to wing commander. Returns to England. Demobilized 1945. Post-war rarely discusses testing Walton's modification. When asked, I just flew the aircraft. Engineer did the important work. Both men deflecting credit. Truth. Collaboration between engineers' innovation and pilots' courage. Neither sufficient alone. Together, 162 lives saved. Modern aircraft engineering is sophisticated, computer-modeled, extensively tested. Development cycles span years, cost millions. Walton's modification took 90 minutes, 8 shillings. Sometimes simplest solution is right solution. Sometimes innovation comes from outside official channels. Sometimes urgency trumps protocol. War teaches lessons peacetime forgets. Perfect solutions arriving too late save nobody. Adequate solutions arriving immediately save hundreds. September 15th, 1940. Nicholson's Hurricane took blast damage 9 feet from his wing. Fabric tore, controls flexed. But crosshatch pattern held. Cascading failure never came. He flew home, landed safely, walked away. Because one engineer refused to accept that fabric had to fail. Because 8 shillings of tape interrupted the pattern that killed. Sometimes survival is just stopping the tear before it spreads.